Jason is sleeping.
I did pull 10 hours last night. 10 hours and 11 minutes of sleeping.
Wow.
It's always like the fourth night after I get back that my body's like, oh, now. Because I probably averaged 4 hours of sleep a night during Car Week.
Car Week. Okay.
So yeah, they know about that because of the thumbnail.
But if you're, or the title. So this is the Carmudgeon Show. I am Derek Tam-Scott. That is Jason Cammisa. And this episode is about Monterey Car Week 2025. Our discussion of it. Yeah.
Yes. What car did you drive down in this year?
1957 Jaguar Mark 1.
And did it break?
No, it was faultless.
Damn it.
It did a beautiful job.
I had two cars that were both also mechanically-ish faultless.
3 decades newer.
They are. No. Wait, hold on. 3 and 3.5. Yeah, my Mercedes Cosworth and my E30 wagon. The Mercedes is cranky at the moment, so we'll have both cars were hit with stuff on the road. The Mercedes got backed into on the front bumper and also then hit on the side. Somebody walked by and scraped a fender flare. Just kind of one of those like annoying, it's all nothing stuff like that. The scratches will buff out and whatever else. And they were both on Fredestein tires. Was your car on Fredestein Sprint Plus?
Yes,
Sprint Classics?
It was Sprint Classics. It was a fully Fredestein car week for us.
Which means that this episode of the podcast probably is, isn't it?
Sponsored by the by Fredestein.
By the folks at Fredestein. I don't think I realized that, but yeah. I did the whole car week. I will say I sat in traffic a lot, as we do.
Normal.
I did take one wrong turn. So you have to one of the inside tips for Car Week is you just have to use Waze because you just never know what fuckery has unfolded somewhere and caused a 17-hour traffic backup on one of the main arteries. And so I was using Waze to get through this Pebble Beach thing, trying to get over to the Haggerty house actually. And I took a wrong turn and it was like the detour. I think I started with like 6 minutes left to my destination and it went to 16, but I saw the map and it was like spaghetti.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've never been on this side of Pebble Beach, so I'm just going to go for it. And what I realized is I was on a sort of edge road with no houses on it. And it was twisty and curvy and there was no one. And that 15-minute quote unquote detour wound up actually only costing
6 minutes.
One. And I did probably, we can bleep this out. Bleep miles an hour. No, it was a really brisk run between probably 30 and 50 miles an hour the whole way, maybe slower in some of the corners. But it renewed my faith in my wagon. Like, not that I had lost faith in the wagon, but the Beatrice, my shitbox E30, got the really good suspension stuff. So it got the big stab bars and the stab bar. The big anti-roll bars, excuse me.
Thank you.
And the camber plates and the heavier duty suspension, and the E30 wagon went back to just lowering springs and fixed negative camber plates, but the rest of the stuff is just kind of off the shelf. And that car is a monster on a back road. And those tires are, as we've said many times, perfect. I want Sprint Pluses on all of my cars.
Yeah.
Can't have them. They're not grippy enough that I was able to actually kick the tail out and I was making a quick U-turn and right in front of a cop.
How did that go?
He gave me quite the stern looking at, and I just went, sorry. Like, I was just embarrassed. Like, it was just one of these like really tight U-turns, and I kicked it just sideways enough that I could get like 90 degrees of steering. And I took off and he just pulled up next to me. I'm like, sorry. And he laughed.
Okay.
Unlike what the police did to many of the people who were purposefully acting like dickbags. And so we'll talk more about them.
Okay. Then a clap and a jingle.
Oh, I thought you meant we had to perform the jingle.
I never mean that.
Oh, fuck, are we recording?
Look at that.
Oops.
Or don't look at that if you're just listening.
Well, they could look at something else. Probably
That's
be more
true.
pleasant than what we're looking at.
My car is
No,
sad.
I'm talking.
Oh, you're talking about us, not my
Your car's
car.
not
Not my
sad.
car. It was sad because you said that nobody wanted to look at it.
What? That's not what I said. You have misinterpreted. What I said was that is the car that should be in the background because it was the car that was conspicuously absent. Not it. But the air-cooled 911 was conspicuously absent from Monterey Car Week this year.
I saw some, but yes, not as many as in years past.
It used to be that I called the Porsche 911 the Pebble Beach Pinto because everyone used it as their basic transportation.
Yeah.
And they're gone.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore.
All old cars are gone. It was probably one of the most salient. It felt like there was a big step this year compared to years past. It wasn't like a gradual change. It was like a huge step function change. Like we noticed a reduction in years past, but I don't think I've never ever noticed a more substantial decrease in the number of old cars present at Car Week than between last year and this.
I would say the Pebble Beach Car Week is dead, replaced by Monterey Car Week. Without question, to me, this was the year where we rounded the bend, and this is no longer about Pebble Beach. This is no longer about old cars. This is a car festival with a very heavy emphasis on exotics.
Yeah. And it's been a long time coming, but the transformation is definitely complete.
Yeah, in priority, there was still a lot of old cars there, but like sitting in traffic, what I noticed is if there was a Porsche, it was driven by someone who was over the age of 183 years old and was doing at least 41 miles an hour less than the speed limit and couldn't figure out where the fuck they were.
In an old Porsche?
In any Porsche. In any Porsche.
Including GT3s? Hot Boy GT3s?
Okay, the exceptions there were hot Porsches, which I'll lump into the other big bucket of new arrivals, which are dickbags in exotic cars getting arrested, crashing into each other, doing 146 miles an hour and on a small road in the case of that E90.
And being chased down the street by youths with cameras.
Yeah. The car spotters were out in full force. But to me, the most offensive part of Car Week was all of the M3s. Did you notice the M3s?
Yeah, there were a lot of M3s, 3 Series generally.
Everyone with a crackle tune and anti-lag for a 7,000 mile radius was there doing anti-lag fuckery.
Yes, definitely noticed that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but that fucking S58 engine might, and the S55, they might make power, but in the context of old cars, they sound like shit. And so everywhere you went, you heard, and they're just a fucking terrible noise.
Yeah.
That was a shame.
Yes. Things have changed for sure.
And then I watched Luca Betti do donuts in a Cammera.
Yes.
Which was kind of cool in a sanctioned event. Like there was,
which is what that car was designed to do, and it does it very well. So
he had the unfortunate timing of going right after some like 10,000, it sounded like 10,000 RPM Corvette doing like 2 minutes straight of donuts at its 40 billion RPM.
So what was this
limiter.
event? You went to some kind of trash festival or something?
I call it the Fire Festival. It was officially called the Monterey Motorsports Festival. And it was, if I'm being nice, discordant. If I'm being honest, it was schizophrenic. But if I'm being objective, it was actually quite fun. It was the most diverse event I've ever been to at Car Week. It was on the fairgrounds, and I shit you not, the sort of prime billing reason I went was the slate truck was supposed to be there for 5 hours, and I wanted to check out the slate truck. It was apparently there for 5 minutes with flashers on the street and then fucked off. So I didn't get to see it. What was there, however, was like a section of $1 million Restomods right next to a section of like JDM stuff, next to a section of, not physically next to each other, but there was like a whole section of like American, there was a Chevy Impala section. There was a sort of
motorsports
lowrider section.
More motorsports.
And then like a modern German stuff section with like an E30 and an R8 and just sort of like totally random shit. And then there was an amusement park, and I I mean this literally. There was a roller coaster and other stuff. Then there was the sort of like award stage, and on that stage was some guy with an Italian accent, like, the honor of my lifetime is to meet Luca di nobody, and like, let's give a round of applause to this magnificent man in his career, and silence because no one knew the fuck he was talking about. And there were a bunch of like Ford GTDs there, and there was a 1600 horsepower twin turbo Ferrari F12 drift car next to it. It made no sense. And then the main stage was the Journey cover band with the Filipino guy who sounds just like Steve. What's his name? You probably don't know who Journey is. Journey, it's a musical band.
Sure, yes.
Just okay. Living in a lonely world. Come on.
Sure, I've heard of them.
Okay, good. Steve Perry's sort of passed away, and the guy that replaced him sounds just like him. And so they were playing to a bunch of 12-year-olds who were like, we don't know who this is. I think my parents listen to this music. At the same time as the 12-year-olds were gathering for some like cracked out EDM like DJ who was playing all night. And while all of these disparate things are happening, there's the Donut Island, they called it, which to get to, you have to walk past a DDE stage. DDE is Daily Driven Exotics. These are the guys who sadly get arrested a lot and do a lot of bad things. But they were there with
Is that sad?
It's sad for Car Week when everyone's getting arrested, and what happens is it's just all the good stuff is going to get shut down because no one can behave. So that's why it's sad. But I mean, they drew a big crowd and everyone's happy to see them, and they have cool cars and whatnot. Nothing against them, but you walk past them and you get to this. Basically, it was a burnout box, like a donut box, and there were bleachers that fit about a quarter as many people as were supposed to be there, and a PA system that didn't work and kept cutting out to the point where you couldn't hear what was going on. But there were some epic donuts that happened finally after the crowd refused to chant DDE. So it was like, he was like, come on, DDE, DDE. And everyone finally, after like 32nd time they were trying to rile everyone up because the cars just weren't appearing, the crowd started chanting, bring the cars. It was a Mongolian clusterfuck, to use a term that I heard once and cracked me up. It was,
that is not Car Week.
You would have left in 13
I would have not
seconds.
Attended, which is what I did.
I'm going back next year. I had fun. Yeah. I mean, it was hilariously schizophrenic.
Okay.
But it was fun. And then, that is the complete opposite of the Quail.
Or Pebble Beach.
Right. Mm-hmm. So something for everyone. But there were a lot of cars that were too new to celebrate, I would say, in an event that was historically about old cars.
Well, the event has evolved. I mean, there's more manufacturer debuts and OEMs are present. I mean, it used to be centered around, when I was a kid, it was centered around the historic races, auctions, and of course, Pebble Beach.
Right.
Before the Quail was invented, which was 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, it's not that anymore. And it's fun. Look, having a week-long festival of cars is amazing. Yeah. I chose not to do anything with new car OEMs, and I have sort of gradually diminished that 80% because I don't want to, and 20% out of protest because I just don't think this has replaced the car show.
Didn't you attend a press launch?
I did a preview of a car. Sure. I think you might be able to guess why I did.
Yeah. I mean, because it was.
But look, I didn't go. We'll talk about that in a second. But I didn't go to the Acura TLX concept debut. The Quail has replaced the LA Auto Show. Mm-hmm. So I got media credentials, and it's like, right, 8:10 a.m. we have the Acura press conference, and then 8:25 every 15 or 25 minutes there's another.
Like some of them are 7 minutes apart.
Yeah, I didn't look at the schedule because I'm not there to go and see new car debuts. I'm there to see the old cars and people that work in the industry. But it's 100% replaced LA Auto Show and Detroit Auto Show and New York Auto Show.
Yeah, for new car debuts from a variety of OEMs, many of which do not have any sporting intent.
Or should never be. Like the Acura fucking TLX shouldn't, or RLX, whatever it was. It was an SUV. The event is called The Quail, a motorsports gathering.
Yes.
And the only sport anyone is playing that is running their kids to school. And that's not actually a sport. Yeah.
Have you ever wrestled a toddler? Just kidding. I mean, like that could be a lot of work. It could be sport.
It could be sport.
Getting them into the car.
No, that was actually...
That's not a motorsport.
I failed, but that was a George Carlin reference when he talked about sports. He's like, not everything is a sport. And he goes, this like hour-long routine. You guys should all look it up. It's amazing. But he was like, running isn't a sport because everyone can do it. My mom runs to the store. Do you think she qualifies for an Olympic medal? No. Swimming isn't a sport. Swimming is a way to keep from drowning. He just kind of goes through and dissects all sports. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but I had 2 cars there this year, as we discussed on a previous podcast that we did live at the Motorlux. My E30 and the 2316, both of which sustained a little bit of damage, but that's what happens when you're on the road. But I got 2 new grills for the Mercedes. So the Mercedes got hit with something on the way down and just chipped off a piece of the plastic grill. And our buddy Adis, who's the most generous, cool guy in the world, who makes us these Carmudgeon Show stuff, just showed up with a replacement grill here for me. So I owe him big time. And then because Car Week, I had posted something to Instagram, and a friend of mine was like, hey, there's a guy here who says he's got a brand new like old stock grill with the chrome and everything in the trunk of his 190. Are you interested? Yeah. Ran across the field like a lunatic and bought a perfect new old stock grill for the car. So now
what field was this?
This was at Radwood, which was
I missed Radwood this year.
It was awesome.
What day of the week was that?
Where am I?
I think it was Friday night. I think it was in the night. Was it the night of the Quail?
It was the night of the Quail.
Yeah.
So it's Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I missed a lot of stuff this year. This year felt a little different for us because we did a lot of commerce. And so, what this event does is it gets a lot of people together who are in industry. And so, you do try to attend the events and then you run into people, and then eventually that will lead into sort of business discussions and get transactions done. So I would, in the space of a week, of course there's auctions also, we did more transaction value than we did in our entire first year of business. So I felt like I was working more this year and didn't get to do some of the stuff that would be nice to do, like that's for fun. But also if you say, well, this is the fundamental reason we are here is to pay for our rental house. So we have to do some business, and the Quail tickets and all the other expenses associated with attending. So it became more of a business week for me, which was fine. I'm happy to have that. It's good to have the chance to do the transactions.
I miss when it was fun for me. It's 100% work for me. Or near as makes no difference. 100%
sounded
work.
like your donut island wasn't entirely work.
I went there to check out the slate truck.
Did you do work while you were there?
I Instagrammed the shit out of it. I mean, that's work,
yes,
right?
Yes,
it's social media's work. I would have much rather just hang out with my friends and, sort of went here and went there.
Non-authorized donuts.
No. Yes. No. No, it just, the whole week is 100% a work event for me. I mean, because I literally cannot go 5 minutes without running into someone from the industry whom I know and have a conversation. But I did spend time with a bunch of executives from different car companies, and just a bit of FaceTime goes a long way to setting plans for what we can do in this coming year with drag race episodes and icons and.
Yeah.
But
I would say exactly analogous for those of us who are in trade, because you see these people a couple times a year, and some of them you've done transactions with in the past. Others you are doing your first transactions, and sort of getting everybody together in the same place is extremely valuable for that.
It's huge.
So
how all of us did not wind up with like the plague, which I just got a news update that is going around. I mean, how many people are on this peninsula? 1 million?
Mostly outdoors events.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Although there were a couple of late nights in bars.
Oh, I didn't do any of that.
Oh my God.
I don't have
I don't drink,
ability to do any of that.
I don't drink, but even every morning was like, the one morning I went to bed after 2 and left my hotel room at 4:45 to go to Dawn Patrol to see the car show. And that was just a
no. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing
day.
Pebble things, or like you have a car on the tour. My business partner Taz he was driving a Ferrari 275 GTB in the tour, and he wanted to win. And I was like, it's not a race. And he's like, you don't understand. I have to win it.
Win the tour.
Like he wanted to be at the front of the pack because he didn't want to get stuck behind some 1908 steam car that, has an overpressure warning on the boiler and grenades, or gets stuck going up a hill or whatever, only to be met with the back of a CHP motorcycle Escort, which was going 10 miles an hour under the speed limit at all times. So he was very frustrated. But anyway, he got up at 0 dark 30 in order to do that. So I mean, it's not what I would do. You just kind of deal with it and hang out in traffic. But the tour is a thing that's Thursday morning, where all the cars that are going to be on the lawn Sunday go. Not all of them. They are all invited and requested and desired to go. And it's whatever it is, 40 or 60 or 80 miles that you do, and you get credit for doing it. And then it figures into your judging scores or your judging outcomes to some extent, not very much.
It's a tiebreaker more than anything, if I understand right.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, the car that won the preservation class did not do the tour because it had 87 miles on the odometer, which feels like cheating in the preservation class. But
what kind of car was it?
Ferrari Daytona Spider. There were 3 preservation classes. This is the latest of the preservation classes. But that was a car that our shop had done the
It's
prep
not
work.
preservation.
on for.
That's the abandoned class.
Yeah.
Like somebody bought this, drove it home from the dealership, and died, and it took 50 years for the family to sort it out.
That's why I liked the 275 that we had better, because it had been it'd been in France and it was owned by a sort of famous actor, and the guy, when it was 2 days old, it would have been originally silver, and he said, I don't like this color, had it repainted when it was 2 days old and was still wearing the paint from when it was repainted when it was 2 days old. Like it just had a really interesting story. And I think preservation cars need to be, all those cars that win awards should be about the story to some extent. And I think that's a much more interesting story than, we put it in the basement of a hotel for 50 years and then pulled it out and cleaned it up and got it running.
Yeah, not okay. What's also lacking a little bit from Pebble itself is a sense of humor, except for our friend Tom Hale.
Yeah, he has a sense of humor for sure.
So Tom Hale had the car that Isabella Duncan, hold on, what's her name?
Isadora
Duncan died in. So she was wearing a scarf.
That got tangled in the spinner of the wire wheel. And that strangled her.
Or decapitated?
Perhaps, yeah.
I think it might have been. And so he showed that car, not that exact car, but that exact model.
An Amel car.
And had
a
sticker made that said scarves.
Yes.
With a line through it.
No scarves allowed.
And if those who know, I heard a lot of judges come over and just burst out laughing.
Yeah. Yes.
We need a little bit more whimsy at this event to be my kind of.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. The cars are
that's
unbelievable.
Pebble. What else? I did not go to the racetrack at all. We both went to Quail.
We did. I went to Concours D'Lemons. That was fun.
I didn't do that. That was another thing I wasn't able to do for
that's another nice
business obligations.
Trashy
Trashy
respite.
There's certainly something for everyone.
Okay, so there's one thing that was not for everyone that we both attended, which was the media
for
preview.
Almost no one.
Exactly. The preview of the Gordon Murray Special Vehicles S1.
Yeah. So there were two cars coming out of GMSV, Gordon Murray Special Vehicles.
I only saw the one.
You only saw one. Yes. It was so achingly beautiful and arresting that you didn't even see the other car that they released at the same event.
I saw the other car, and I think it was a mistake for GMA to roll out both because the blue car was called...
So let's start with this company, or the division called GMSV, which is Gordon Murray Special Vehicles, which is to do sort of bespoke cars, I guess. So the first one is called the Le Mans. It has codename T56, and this was commissioned by an English dealer named Joe Macari. And this is center seater, so it is, I would say, an evolution of the T50 rather than being sort of more T33 adjacent, which is a two-seat car that is a production car that will be homologated for U.S. consumption. Anyway, it's restyled and dramatically upgraded, and they're making 24 of them because of the 24 hours of Le Mans. And it's a modern hypercar shape that is, I think, more conventional supercar looking, maybe a little bit less... the T50 has a certain understatedness to it and maybe not conventionally beautiful aesthetics. And this was like a more conventional looking supercar.
But no less unbeautiful, I would say. It was not...
I didn't mind its aesthetics, but it was perhaps because it was parked next to the...
I took exception immediately. Just one of the most expensive things when you engineer a car is actually the lighting. And it's a very strange thing, but lighting costs a fortune. And neither the headlights nor the taillights fit within the design or fit within even the openings of where they were created. And so on the front of the car, the headlight shape was just sort of like amoeba-like, but was put in I think it was carbon fiber, a sort of black trim around it to mask the fact that the headlight didn't work with the shape of the car. And that was such a turnoff immediately. The eyes are the breasts of the face of the car or something. I know there's a joke in there. To me, the headlights are really, really important. And they really are the eyes of the face of the car. And right off the bat, something wrong. And the same thing with the taillights. It's a round taillight in a double teardrop sort of shaped opening. Didn't fit, wasn't even centered in the opening, was not a
this was, to be fair, a show model. It didn't even have an interior. One imagines, hopes, presumes that...
but a show model is all about the way it's styled, so...
Sure.
I think... Yeah. Now, with that said, the other car had a lighting issue also that we'll get to, but I just thought, okay, the car is fine, it's inoffensive, but right off the bat, I sort of looked at it, did a quick glance, and then saw the gold car, and it was just... game over for the Le Mans car. Game over.
Yeah.
So this is, first of all, in my favorite color.
Yeah, Jewish Racing Gold.
Jewish Racing Gold.
That was the presentation color of this car.
I don't think GMA called it that, but that is the official name, so they'll have to get on board with that. I don't believe that the McLaren F1 was a particularly beautiful car. Gasp. I thought you were going to gasp.
No, it was designed to be timeless and sort of clean and unadorned and sort of very functional and achieve the performance goals, designed by Peter Stevenson. It's not unpleasant looking, but it's not arrestingly gorgeous the way that some other cars are.
Sexless is how I describe it, right? It's an exotic car that is designed by an engineer is how it looks, right? It's just not. This S1 takes the styling cues of McLaren F1 and just drapes it with a
sex appeal,
sex curtain.
Sex.
It's unbelievable. It's. I couldn't stop staring at it, and I walked right over to the designer, and this was the first thing I saw basically for the week, and I'm like, "Congratulations, you have won Car Week," and he was like, "What?" Like it's over. Like it's over for everyone else. You've taken a timeless, beautiful design, and you've. I don't want to say copied. He didn't copy it. You've taken all of everything that made that design
refined,
great,
evolved,
and added sex with a Coke bottle shape to it. And I think a lot of it didn't show up in the photos because there was a lot of sort of online discourse about the car just being a copy of an F1. Absolutely not. When you see, I'll insert a video here over what we talk. When you see the detail work of the taillights, for example, like on surface with the taillights on, it looks like a McLaren F1 shaped taillight. But there's three-dimensionality to everything in this car that doesn't necessarily translate at first glance in photos. It is spectacular.
Yeah, it really is quite a stunning thing. So the origin of this, so 24 of the other cars, this car they're making 5 of, plus I think GMA's maybe keeping a 6th prototype. It was a customer commission. And so the person who bought the first T50 or placed the first T50 deposit before even seeing a picture of it and has bought one of every GMA product commissioned this project. And it was created in concert with Gordon Murray, who was in hospital for some time with cancer and was working on this car sort of feverishly in his hospital bed doing hand sketches, like hundreds of pages of hand sketches, which apparently the owners of this car will receive copies of all of these sketches. So intimately involved, Gordon Murray, which I think is an incredibly important part of the car's appeal, which is, and it's technically revamped as well as aesthetically. It's probably, if you had to say the architecture's derived from something, you would say T50, but it sounds like they've done enough sort of re-engineering and substantive changes. I mean, they had to change the chassis. They designed bespoke lighting, to return to your earlier comment about
although the front lighting is not done yet.
Yes, the front lighting is not done yet. It has covers concealing where it will have its actual lights,
which need to stay.
You like
them? I love them, and actually, what I told the designer was like, you might be done, but I'm sorry, you're gonna have to change something right now. That needs to be a pop-up light. And if that's not legal for homologation, then throw a fucking sealed beam in there if you have to, or an old H4 light and something, and give the customer a pop-up in with the car. Put it in the trunk that they can install, because I think that the detailing around that light, even as it was perfect.
Yeah. I thought it looked a little bit faceless without eyes.
No, I thought it was squinty. I thought it was like squinty and sultry looking at. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
So it was commissioned by this customer who wanted, Gordon Murray was is his hero, and he wanted always to do a project with him. And so he brought his own designer, and that's why the car looks so divergent from the other GMA products, is because it was designed by a different person. And the person who designed his name is Florian Flatau, and he designed sort of a retro Audi Quattro concept and worked at Singer for a long time, and also did the Tut Hill GT1 that debuted, I think, last year at Quail. So obviously a well-developed sense of the past from, all of that work looks to the past and acknowledges, vintage cars in a way that, we always wish would happen, whether it's the retro Hyundai 80s concept things that they have done, or, any number of places where people often conceptualize this type of stuff, but rarely makes it into production. So anyway, he was the designer who styled the car and the guy who commissioned the whole project. And, they were up late nights and doing all of the ridiculous iteration that is involved.
Very quickly.
They did, but I think they put in a lot of hours in a very short window to get the car to the state. But it is truly stunning. The engine also is different. Instead of 3.9 liters, it's 4.3. And so I think it's going to be sort of just T50, but just more in every respect.
700, I think the 700 PS. Here's the thing. There's a point at which when you look so good, it doesn't matter anything else. And that would be a terrible shame if the car didn't drive well. I think the car is right there where it looks so good, it doesn't matter. But I have still not driven a T50, but I did get that ride along with Dario Franchitti driving it. And I will say the ride along in the T50 was far more interesting than any other car I've driven this year, like any other new car that I've driven this year. And I've done some pretty terrible things to some pretty cool cars. And just sitting in one of the passenger seats in that car was more of an experience. So knowing that the basis of this car, is, aside from its looks,
that it is intended to exceed it.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's knowing that we're just going to be listening to that Cosworth V12.
And yes, it's manual. Yes.
And it will be lightweight.
They've apparently revised the shift linkage in a way that improves the shift quality. I mean, they just went every single aspect. They said, what can we do? What would you do, Gordon Murray, if you had more time to just make this the best you could, or just keep exceeding the sort of marks that you've already set?
I think it's a really important point that you made, which is that Gordon's involved in this, because I think a lot of the discourse is, well, they just aped the F1 design. It's not they. It's Gordon, right? Gordon, working with a bunch of people, was able to look back in his own past and make a car that's better than his own masterpiece. Yeah. And that's so important. Yeah. I mean, a critical part of the buying decision, for sure, for one of those cars is that involvement. Yeah. Because not that many people have the option. I mean, they're building 5 of them, and the guy who commissioned it is keeping 2 or 3 of them and selling 2 or 3 of them. So, very short list of people who will actually have the chance to buy one. Luckiest people on planet Earth. Yeah. I don't often want double-digit $1 million cars or think that they're worth it. I mean, it's such a stupid thing to say it's worth it. But I don't understand, for example, rationally why a lot of people spend the money they do on things like Paganis, right? And this is no shade to them. It's just not like, oh, how many millions of dollars? This is one where I say yes, and by the way, I'm going to park it next to my McLaren F1 because they just need to be there as a set. And would that cost you $60 million for the two? I don't even know what it would cost for the 2 cars. Sure. Makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, it depends on how much money you have and how you value those dollars. But yeah, I feel like those, and this was also part of the calculus. If you're buying one of those cars, you say like, you have something that looks like this and was designed by this person and does all this stuff. And, you have... Everyone who has a McLaren F1 is going to have some interest in this. Not everyone, but I think the majority of people who own a McLaren F1 are going to have interest in this car. And if they're making available 2 or 3 of them to the market, I think that it's going to be a sensible thing to buy in terms of protecting your investment
at whatever price that is.
Yeah.
I mean, this corollary for me, somebody comes out with a new Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve in my Jewish Racing gold color and makes it modern,
somehow
safe,
more stunning to look at.
Far more stunning, right? I mean, it makes it even more stunning because we can't be not nice to my car, and faster, and revs higher, and has modern technology, and you have the man who
designed by the same
it,
people,
right? Yep. Saying, well, the air conditioning, aircon was shit in the first one, so Gordon does not speak this way, but right, aircon is, hold on, it's German. The aircon was terrible now, so we make it really blowing ice cold in your coochie and make the car better in every... Abso-fucking-lutely. It doesn't matter what it costs.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those moments where, fuck, that thing is gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's so hard to nail this concept, and many people have tried to revisit.
The lights have just gone very bright.
Brightness here. Do you have the... Oh,
I have a remote.
Is it the remote?
Yeah, it's the remote.
Great success. So I mean, it's a not relevant car in some senses, but also maybe the coolest car ever.
It might be the coolest car ever, and it was an instant win. I mean, I know there is no winner for Car Week, technically, but there technically now is. It was just not a contest. Yeah. Like, I'm with apologies to every other car that debuted this week, and there were some amazing things. That Totem Alpha GTA was back, and I can't look directly at it without frothing.
That car doesn't do that much for me.
Oh, God. I mean...
I think it's
knowing it's a turbo V6.
The proportions don't see. This was the thing about the GMA car. The proportions somehow just work. Oftentimes when you take vintage design language and apply it to a modern car, the proportions get lost in translation. And the Totem is one of those cars for me where you lose the integrity of the original design and it looks like a caricature. and there was nothing caricature at all about the
No,
GMA car.
fair point. Okay, then fine, Chimera.
Sure. Okay. Yes. Did you look closely at the new Chimera?
No.
I don't know if anybody cares about this. It's four-wheel drive, whereas the previous ones were rear-wheel drive. And so they have encased the drive shaft that takes drive to the front axle in a sort of cage, and then a clear lucite cover, and then they painted a stripe around it so that you can see when it's spinning. And it has adjustable torque bias. There's a lever next to the shifter that allows you to determine how much torque you're sending to the front axle, so you can in real time watch the drive shaft pass by your legs through the floor or the car. It's really,
please tell me
really
it's painted
cool.
in tricolore, the Italian flag
no, it's got
colors.
a red sort of spiral pattern on it. It's
so
incredibly cool. So that was a big highlight for me.
Very cool.
But yes, that's probably the other modern car, which is not a modern car because it's built out of a vintage Lancia, but Restomod thing that really...
I mean, I'm going to say Restomod is the Restomod is the second place winner for Car Week at this point.
Yeah, and this is a concept that is increasingly popular. People ask us oftentimes, what do we think about Restomods? And I think what I'm learning, and this is me as a geriatric who's finally picked up, gotten with the program, which is that a lot of people like certain characteristics or components of the old car experience, but very few people who are now the bulk of car buyers are actually want an old car. And so what a Restomod does is it allows you to have some of the aesthetic or the vibes or the unique identity of an old car without actually having to deal with an old car. Because, objectively, the old car experience can be quite unpleasant. Carbureted cars where there are mechanical issues or stinkiness. And I have a client who has a Chimera who complains about the exhaust fumes because it's uncatalyzed. And he's got a collection of cars, but the Chimera's stinkiness is an annoyance. And it's like, if you were someone who was collecting Miuras and stuff like that, you just be like, oh, yeah, this is an integral part of the experience. I just have to deal with it. So it's interesting to see as sort of...
on it.
Yes, we'll just call Luca Betti right now and ask him to fit a catalyst.
Meineke. I mean, a cat is a cat is a cat.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how long it'll last before it melts down if the thing runs crazy rich or whatever, but he can catalyze it.
An interesting thought. So all this to say that Restomods are interesting because people want modern brakes and ABS and CarPlay and aircon and all that stuff, but they like the aesthetic or the vibes or the texture of an old car, and so Restomods are designed to provide that experience. So, the purists among us won't necessarily appeal, but there's a huge, and Singer is a just shining example of this, and they were fairly early on it. But you and I have both expressed sort of previous sort of underwhelmment with Singers because they don't have any old car character, but they promise it based on how they look, and that is a minus to us, but it is a plus to the people who buy them.
Well, it's certainly a plus to people who buy them to look at them because they're stunning.
Or to daily it. I mean, that's kind of...
Do you think people daily those cars?
I think some people do, yeah. I mean, if you've got this insane collection worth $1 billion of cars or whatever the number is, and you just want to get around in something that's no pain and it's like driving a Porsche, but more interesting and more beautiful and aesthetic on a daily basis, I could absolutely see driving a Singer on a daily basis.
So I see Singers as still old cars, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but then you drive it and it doesn't feel like one to me.
Fair point. But it still is going to have old car issues.
Yes.
Where something like that Totem is a new car underneath.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have issues with the stuff that's bespoke
It's
in
an
small
Alfa Romeo.
volume.
No, the bespoke stuff is fine.
Like
stock Alfa
custom
Romeo
windshields and shit like that, Okay, so anyway, that was our discussion of GMA.
GMA is on top of the world right now. I think
that car in particular. Other GMA products, to me, I would say you buy them, and they're inoffensive looking, and you buy them in spite of how they look, but it's not one of the top main value propositions that the car presents to you is the looks. And
same as McLaren F1 was, right?
Yeah. And obviously this car turns that on its head.
Yeah.
So, huge fan.
Yeah.
Mega freaking cool.
T50 should have looked like that.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine.
Sure. Yeah.
Just imagine.
Yeah.
I'm not a supercar guy. I'm not a hypercar guy. Like, these cars are meaningless to me, and that one I just could not stop looking at. That was great. And then you wound up driving, shocker, an air-cooled Porsche thing.
Not Porsche.
You caught
Not
me.
a Porsche. So the new Ruf Tribute is what they call this car, and it looks like the SCR and CTR, which is to say that this is another sort of past-aware design thing, and I'm a big fan of it because, of course, Ruf started in the 70s modifying Porsches, and then they've started modifying them so much that they just bought body shells from Porsche because they were throwing away so much of the rest of the car. They said, we don't need to buy the whole car and take it apart to build it. So, this is the origin of the original Yellowbird, the CTR, which was, the fastest car in the world, despite looking like a 911 more or less, which is pretty cool. A narrow one, no less. So they have a deep history of taking Porsches or Porsche body shells and making cars out of them. And then, maybe in the 2000s, they started doing dedicated cars that didn't really look like the Porsche design language, but there was this mid-engine car that they made that, the back of it was very definitely not like any Porsche. And then this sort of CTR, the new CTR SCR Tribute line is a car that recalls vintage 911s aesthetically, 80s, 90s 911s, very much the original Yellowbird. And they're available with a whole bunch of different powertrains. And the car that I drove is noteworthy because it's air-cooled, and all the other ones that they have made have been liquid-cooled.
We should also say one that the SCR does not have a Porsche part on it. It is a carbon fiber monocoque.
It is a bespoke carbon fiber chassis with push rod suspension. I mean, there is under the skin. I don't think there are any Porsche components. A seasoned Porsche expert will go walk around that car and find a number of things that are actually Porsche parts.
Meaning
mostly like trim and switches, the windshield washer nozzles, the trunk latch mechanism, the door latch mechanisms, which I particularly appreciated because old 911s have the most wonderful door shut noise. And because they used old 911 door latches, it sounds like an old 911 when you close the door, which I really, really like.
Right. People just sort of look at it and think, oh, it's like a Singer where it's just a cut-up car. No, it's carbon.
Yeah.
And it's longer, wider, taller. I mean, it's a much bigger car than the air-cooled cars.
Yes. The cockpit dimensions, I think, are basically the same, but the radiuses of the doors are larger, so the doors are effectively scaled up in terms of the sort of curvature that between the windows and the side of the door skin. I mean, the whole car is just kind of scaled up aesthetically. But there are, there's some 997 parts that are recognizable inside of it. There's like window switches and the HVAC is clearly 964, 993, late Carrera 3.2. There's just a bunch of stuff in there, peripheral stuff. But yes, the underlying engineering it's a bespoke, entirely engineered by Ruf car. So they're finally out on their own, which, maybe it's now been 15 or 20 years since they started doing this. That in some respects, we talked about this when we did the dedicated SCR episode. I think that was 2 years ago now, which is that walking up to this car, you think it's a Porsche and you have 911 expectations. And then like the more you interact with it, the more you realize that there's very little like 911 characteristics, but you also, it's a mind fuck. The whole car's a mind fuck because parts of it are just screaming that it's a Porsche to you. And then other parts of it are very definitely not a Porsche. Yeah. And so the SCR is a naturally aspirated car that revs very high, that is, like a GT3 engine, but just more so. And then there's a turbocharged.
Loosely based on the original architecture of the Mesker, but it's its own engine done by Ruf.
Yes,
right?
correct. Okay. And then there's a turbocharged version of it, which is now a full-on conceptually redo of the original Yellowbird, which is just got Lord knows how many outrageous horsepower, just huge piles of it, and probably the car goes 275 million miles an hour and all that stuff. And then this car that I drove is the new air-cooled car that they call the Tribute. So it is 3.6 liters, it is twin turbocharged, it is air-cooled, the cooling fan and shroud, as far as I can tell, are Porsche parts. They like everything about when you open the engine compartment, it aesthetically feels like the rest of the car, like you're looking at an old Porsche. And so that was incredibly cool.
But this is their own engine, right? So
this is their own engine.
Double overhead cam.
Yes, it's double overhead cam. It's 3 valves per cylinder. Right. As well. And so, people don't often think about this because we glorify and pedestalize air-cooled Porsches so much, but all of those air-cooled engines, including in the latest 993 Turbo, are single overhead cam with rockers actuating the valves, and they're 2 valves per cylinder. There was never a 4 valve per cylinder or more than 2 valve per cylinder or dual overhead cam air-cooled Porsche engine. 9.5
Carrera?
What?
I mean flat six.
Flat six. Yeah, sorry. In a 911. So for road car and fully air cooled.
Right.
So we're setting aside 959 and because it's really
which was
cool
basically an
cylinder
air cooled block and crankcase with water cooled heads.
So they've done 3 valves per cylinder in order to have the thermal capacity for the exhaust side, but obviously you get better flow on the intake.
Use the fact that it's a double overhead cam allows them to do
variable valve timing
on the intake
Correct.
side for emissions and power,
which is really nice. It's incredibly flexible and very little lag. I was shocked. I mean, I guess I've buried the lead, but I got to drive it with Alois Ruf, so that was an incredibly cool experience. And he said, I never would like to do this in a car with sporting intent, especially a turbocharged one. But he said, put it in 6th gear, and it's 1600 RPM or something like that. It's a 7-speed manual. And he said, put it in 6th or 7th gear and just put your foot down. And the sort of flexibility and response was really shocking for that few RPM. And this is the benefit of the modern characteristics, which we could never put in the 90s, never ended up in an air-cooled 911. So obviously the thing moves like all get out. In terms of power, it makes more than the naturally aspirated liquid-cooled car, but not as much, obviously, because you don't have the ability to reject all the heat as the water-cooled twin turbocharged car. But I mean, it was fast as all get out. It was certainly felt, like 993 GT2 plus levels of thrust. I mean, the thing is just outrageously snappy and totally refined, and it's a beautiful place to be. And it was green on green, which is lovely, of course. And sitting beside Alois was a little overwhelming and stressful.
Is this the first time you've driven with him?
Yes. Yeah. Last time
really?
I drove the car, I wasn't. Or last time I drove a Ruf, the SCR, I was not with him.
Was he videoing you while you were driving?
No, but he did say the first time I didn't really notice this, but then the second time he said it, I was like, oh yeah, he did say that before, and he meant it. He said you were making love to the car or something like that, and I was like,
he's a really great passenger. He's so proud of his car that I started laughing when I floored the SCR, and he pulled out his phone and then proceeded to basically record the whole thing, but not in like a creepy way. He was laughing out loud. He was so happy that I was happy that in driving his creation, it was the most endearing thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because to put all this effort into making something yourself, and it's like, this is true designing cars generally, and to be in a position like this, or with Gordon Murray, where you have this single vision of a single individual who is like a brilliant visionary type person, gets rendered in the metal or the carbon or whatever, is increasingly rare, which is why so many modern cars suck so much, because you need entire committees of people who have to be palatable to corporate to come up with ideas that test well with large numbers of masses who are undifferentiated and don't know what they want and all that stuff. And so when you get a distilled vision of someone really brilliant like that, who's a true car guy, like to be actually represented, and for them to have labored over it for thousands of hours and then to share it with someone appreciative is, I'm sure that's what motivates like world-class chefs and all of that stuff as well. And so that was a really neat experience. Again,
lights have turned themselves back up to 100%. It's your, hold on, I'll put them back on 100. That is your Porsche in the background. It's looking very pretty.
Yes.
Now I'm going to turn the lights off to yell at it. You can sit in the dark, you little bastard.
So yeah, it's an incredibly compelling car. The character of the air, I mean, it's very refined. And so it doesn't feel like an old air-cooled car that much because it's so contemporary in its execution, and it doesn't really have lag, and it has variable valve timing and all that stuff. The noise and the texture does feel air-cooled because, one of the reasons why air-cooled cars were phased out by Porsche was, one, the ability to reject, that quantity of heat generated by that much power, especially in a boosted application, is a struggle. And that's why this engine makes less power than the liquid-cooled one. But the other reason was noise, drive-by noise, because you basically have this fan which is pushing air around the cylinders, which are all separated from each other so that you can get air flowing between them. And so the noise is more textured and more sort of old car-y, but the character in terms of interacting with it feels very modern and refined and flexible and just, impressive ability to manage lag.
How high did it rev?
7 something. It's not. It's like it's typical for these twin turbocharged applications. They don't go as high as the naturally aspirated ones. So
Cool.
it was really a treat to drive that car. You know, it certainly is fast enough. I mean, unless you're trying to set land speed records, I don't think there's any reason to buy the turbocharged liquid cooled one, which is the CTR. You know, I'd be very interested to experience a really high revving, naturally aspirated version of this engine. And of course, he was coy about this, but I indicated that I would be really keen to experience that. And I'm hopeful that it could be possible, because that would be pretty darn mega. I mean, it's kind of like what the Cosworth Singer thing that they're doing, their high revving air cooled motor as well. So it's neat to see these sort of infinitesimally small segments of the market of very passionate people who, you know, again, like the vibes of an old car or various characteristics of an old car, but get to have this sort of really modern high performance experience. It was just brilliant
cool.
as an experience.
I'm jealous of that.
No. Yeah.
Jealous. I was supposed
At least
to drive
you've driven
it,
the SCR.
I've driven the SCR, and we had just a scheduling conflict, which prevented me from driving this car. But I'm glad you did, because you have far more experience with air-cooled cars than I do.
I mean, it doesn't feel like an old car, but it feels far more interesting than almost any new car I could possibly fathom.
Chassis felt similar to SCR, I suspect.
It has that same sort of carbonness and this sort of like the combination of sort of the noises and rigidity of a carbon car, which are pretty unique. Very sort of pleasant and usable car. It's a very easy to. It's a very dailyable car. I mean, I was like doing a hill start. So I was doing a hill start in this thing from a dead stop, and Alois reached for the handbrake, and I wasn't using it. And I said, I didn't say anything, but I live in San Francisco. I do hill starts all the time for a living, and the handbrake was unnecessary, but I could tell he wanted me to use it, but I didn't need it because I live in San Francisco and do hill starts for a living, basically. In cantankerous old cars. But all that to say, it's a very flexible, dailyable, pleasant, sort of usable, beautiful way to do any motoring task, basically.
Okay. I look forward to driving one.
Yeah, you should.
Although I don't think I want a turbo more than I want an SCR.
Yes, and that's why I immediately thought about the naturally aspirated version of this car. I think
there should be no impediment. I mean, it is, okay, it's down from 4 valves a cylinder to 3, but it's still twin cam. So I'm sure... I'm sure the valve train can be adapted to rev even higher, and it'll still reject less heat. So I'm all for it.
Yes, it'll heat sink less for sure.
Did you drive anything really interesting? I don't think I drove anything.
I had a lot of Toyota 2000 GT time, which I enjoyed because we showed one of those at the Quail, and I was surprised to see that car win its class.
I was happy for you.
Thank you. It's, you know, the class is post-war sports cars, 1961 to 1975. And that's a pretty meaty class in terms of competition, because that's where you get all your big vintage Ferraris like 275s and, you know, E-types, and Miuras would be in that same class. And so to see a 2-liter, 150 horsepower Toyota win the class was...
this car was so significant.
Yeah, it's incredibly significant.
Else brings Ferraris and you didn't.
Yeah, and so I was pleased to see that car was acknowledged, recognized. And the other thing about that car was just sort of driving places in it, you know, transiting it to and from the Quail and wherever else, was that it seemed to be understood by a new generation of people what it was and recognized, which, you know, I don't know that there's a whole lot of other cars from the late 1960s that I could have driven around in, probably Miura notwithstanding, that would have attracted as much attention as it did from young people in addition to old people.
Is it in video games?
Probably. And it's also the origin of JDM functionally. And so I think that combination probably made it relevant to a group of people that normally I don't see chasing after 1960s cars. So that was sort of heartening to see. And I didn't see any other Toyota 2000 GTs down there being driven or circulated. I didn't see any other old cars, but
there were no cars in any traffic jam.
Yeah, it was an unpleasant experience to get to interact with one of those cars. Feels very expensive, much more expensive than to interact with than a Z or an E-type.
Well, yeah, double inlaid wood, 2 different types of wood in the interior, chrome bezels
and
on everything.
The shift linkage and the character of the motor and the whole feel of the car is very expensive, which is...
That engine is quite flexible. That makes power everywhere. Yeah,
but it revs high also.
7,000, right?
Yes, I think it's 7 or 8.
I'm pretty sure it's 7.
So it was it was really a pleasure to get to interact. It's one of my hero cars, always has been, and I've driven one once before 10 years ago, so but not any distance. So this was really nice to get to experience
GTs.
That car.
I did one. We did a Revelations on that car, and then the hill climb. It was not geared properly for that road. I mean, but when you're getting it out on the road, they are magnificent. And I did have the pleasure of drag racing a 2000 GT and a Fairlady Z432, both 2-liter straight, 7,000 RPM straight sixes from back in the day. And the 2000 GT was actually quicker than it was 150 horse.
Yes, that's right.
So was the Z432.
But with twice as many valves.
But the Z432 made all of its power from 5,500 to 7,500 RPM. And the 2000 just jumped off the line right away, and it would take full throttle, and it was just carbureted better.
Yeah.
And so once you were moving, they were about the same speed, and it was possibly the best sounding drag race I've ever. I mean, it was a stoplight drag. Yeah. It was amazing. Both engines sounded amazing, but that GT is a hell of a car.
Yeah. I would, if they cost the same, I would certainly choose it over an E-Type, and they don't cost the same, and I would maybe still choose it, but really like an all-time, probably a top 10 car for me, honestly. Really? I think so.
I loved it. It's not necessarily for me, but it's very pretty.
And we had this silly Ferrari, one-off Ferrari with no windshield or doors.
That thing was that looked 15. When was that done?
93.
Okay, because I was going to say it looked mid-90s, but it's a 328 underneath or 348?
Yes, 328.
Okay, so yeah, when I heard it was a 328, I'm like, wait, this car looks 10, 15 years newer than a 328, which...
Yeah, it came out in 93. It was a one-off show car built by Baccelli and Villa, who now does restorations for old Ferraris. That's who Ferrari uses to do their old car restorations. Frankfurt 93, Geneva 94. So one-off show car hadn't been seen much in public in the United States in the last decade or so.
Has it been in the U.S. since?
It's been in the U.S. for 7 or 8 years, and it spent a lot of time. It was in the U.S. earlier in its life, like 20 or 30 years ago.
That's cool.
So that was a fun thing to turn up with as well. So we had a grand old time with all of our activities, despite the shift maybe away from vintage car culture.
Well, I will say about the shift from old car culture is that the events that were there for the old cars were just as good as they've always been. So I think the Quail, even though it was dominated by the sponsors and the new cars and became an auto show, the cars that were in the sort of center of the field were still great, and the event was great. Motorlux was, I mean, it's a Haggerty property, so I probably shouldn't say anything bad about it, and probably should say nice stuff about it. It was fucking awesome. It was just the greatest mix of cars, the Sacco section, Porsche section, just sort of everything all over the place. With jets, you're banging your head on the wing of a private jet and to go look at insert name of whatever amazingness. That was a hell of a way to kick off the show, kick off the week, and sort of, all Radwood was great for that crowd. Concours D'Lemons was great for that crowd. So every one of the events was unchanged in its greatness. It was, the difference is you no longer are sitting in a traffic jam that smells so bad that the insects are falling dead
out of the trees,
from the fumes. And
I miss that. That's one, because the sort of magic of spotting things, and there's this whole spotting culture, and they're now oriented towards supercars, but the experience of just driving somewhere to go do something, because the events are all geographically spread out, and then Lord knows what it comes around a corner, whether it's a Miura or some pre-war nonsense or some vintage Lancia or whatever. It's just that discovery of the unexpected is like this really high emotional point, and not getting to have many of those was a bummer for me.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I never worry about my old cars there, because I thought if I get hit by someone in a parking lot, it'll be a door ding that I got from an E-Type or something. Like, it's just, it's somehow just hits differently if it's, some really amazing old thing that we're all in this together, and it will be driven by someone who tried, but ultimately accidents happen and they smack into you or something. This year, that just wasn't the case. Yeah. Even on the main drag in Monterey, I went up over at a Porsche event really quickly, and then came walking back to meet some friends that were on the main drag, and the cops had shut it completely down because it turned into a sideshow. And it was bikes doing burnouts, cars doing burnouts. You know, every M3 in the fucking peninsula was doing a rolling burnout down that street. And my car was on the side of the road there. And it used to be that I would park and not worry about anything. And this time it's like, well, I'm going to get hit by somebody who's trying to do a burnout in something modern and they don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
That was a bit different.
Yeah.
And so, you know, next year that'll factor into what car I take.
Yeah.
It used to be like, oh, the Ferrari is the oldest car that I own. That's probably the one that should go. And my plan was to bring that next year. But now I'm like, I'm going to be in a carbureted old cranky car.
I still do it. I brought the Miura last year. I was driving around in my Jag, which is from 1957. My business partner Taz was driving his 1956 Alfa Romeo. I mean, we're doing the doing the thing, but it just, you know,
but like, you know, first time I pull out into traffic and I have to do an incredibly slow 1 to 3 shift because the transmission's too cold to get it into second and the car's cranky and it's cold. I'm going to have some dick bag in a 6-month-old BMW not understand why I'm not going. And that's just, it just changes your stress level. And the only thing I can hope is that the cops come out even more than they did this year. And there were cops everywhere. And I know people that got pulled over 3, 4, 5 times. And I'm like, good. Really? Yeah. And they're in the wrong cars. You know, they're in exotics and they're in supercars. They say, hey, what are you doing driving through Carmel? Like Carmel as a city has made it really clear they don't want Car Week there. And they started, now there's a new car show there that's sort of started, but it's older stuff. And all the supercars flying down these little tiny neighborhood streets, making all kinds of noise I'm all for noise, with the crackle tunes and the pop tunes. And so you're scaring the shit out of people. No one can sleep. It's just obnoxious. So fine, keep getting pulled over. Go right ahead. You know, you're never going to get pulled over. We were talking about Ferrari 330 GTC, right? Did that come up with, were you there?
I had certainly brought it up repeatedly as an example over the week.
They were like second place Pebble Beach Pinto, right? It was everyone drove a Ferrari 330 because they're comfortable, reliable. They start, other than having a huge turning radius, they're a nice car to bring down for Car Week. I didn't see a single one. And so, you know, no one's going to get angry when you fly by at 28 miles an hour in a 25 zone in a 330, even though it's not a quiet car. But when you're doing 60 in your Aventador at redline in first gear, and then you lift off and it sends 16 fireballs out the exhaust, well, you're going to piss the locals off. And guess who they're going to call? So,
not Ghostbusters.
Not Ghostbusters, indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun week. I mean,
it's still very much worth attending if you've never been. It is I think, singular event, which is to say there's nothing like it on the planet.
I would agree. Scottsdale doesn't come close. Amelia's 1/100th the size.
Yeah.
Villa d'Esta's 1,000th the size. You know what it reminded me of is more like, half of it reminded me of the old like Waterfest / H2O International crowd, which was, you know, they were Volkswagen events back on the East Coast where everyone behaved badly. And they got shut down too. I mean, but we would do these holdback burnouts and it was just sideshow shit. And I am not above that at all, even at my advanced age of 29 or however old I am now. And, but there's a time and place for it. And most of the places and times that I saw that kind of stuff were not appropriate. So, yeah, but whatever. I'll be back next year in some crappy old car that will.
I will always do that.
Good.
As long as it's legal. Alrighty. Thank you for joining us.
Come back next week
until the next Carmudgeonation.
Are we partially carmudgeonated? Vegetable oil?
Yes, it's that's why it's bad for your heart. You should stop carmudgeonating now.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you.
Bye.